Get out of my house! I screamed, hurling the glass at his feet. It shattered like my trust, sharp, loud, and impossible to ignore. You think this land makes you powerful? He snarled, stepping forward. You were nothing before me. Just a poor farmer's daughter with a broken past. I stood my ground. My chest rose and fell with rage. And you were just a liar with a ring. You didn't marry me for love. You married me for acres. His eyes narrowed. I should have married your sister. At least she knew when to keep her mouth shut. That was the moment I knew this wasn't just a marriage. It was a war. Before we start, please make sure to like this video and hit this subscribe button, so you never miss a story like this, and also comments where you are watching from, how many sons and daughters you have. Thanks. You know, people think betrayal feels like a stab in the back. But that's too poetic. The truth is, betrayal feels more like drowning. Slow. Silent. And no one hears you scream under the surface. My name is Zara. And no, I wasn't born rich. I wasn't raised with silk sheets or silver spoons. But I had something far more dangerous: land. 200 acres passed down from my grandfather. That land was my family's blood, sweat, and memory. And the only reason my husband ever said I do. I didn't see it back then. I was too busy falling for his dimples and promises. But that day, the day he looked me dead in the eyes and said I was nothing, I finally saw what everyone had tried to warn me about. The man I married never loved me. He loved what I owned. But let me take you back, because the day it all came crashing down didn't start with silence. It started with screams. With me catching him red-handed. With a contract in his hand, and a devil's smile on his face. I came home early that evening. Something in my gut told me to. You ever get that feeling? That cold prickle at the back of your neck when something just isn't right? I parked the truck by the barn and walked in through the kitchen door. There was laughter. Not mine. Not his. A woman's. I stepped into the living room, and there they were. My husband, sitting with my lawyer. My lawyer. And she was handing him papers. Title transfer forms. My land, being signed away behind my back. What the hell is going on here? I demanded. They both jumped like I'd walked in with a shotgun. He recovered first. Always so smooth. Oh babe, I didn't think you'd be back so early. We were just going over some investment options. Investment options? I snatched the papers from the table and read the heading. Transfer of property, sole ownership to joint marital asset. Are you kidding me? I looked between them. You were going to take my land? Without even asking me? He scoffed. Your land? Zara, we're married. What's yours is mine, right? And that's when it hit me. This wasn't some misunderstanding. This was a setup. From the very beginning. He didn't love me. He never did. He loved the soil beneath my feet, and the power that came with it. You used me, I said, my voice trembling. Everything we had, everything I gave you, it was just about the land? He rolled his eyes. Oh please. Don't act so innocent. You think any man would marry a girl like you for love? I flinched. That one hit harder than I thought it would. A girl like me? I whispered. You were desperate. Your dad died. Your mom's barely around. You clung to me like I was your savior. But I did you a favor, Zara. I made you look like somebody. My hands curled into fists. No. You made me look like a fool. He leaned in, voice cold. And you're going to sign those papers. Because if you don't, I'll make sure you lose everything. The bank loan. The debt your father left, the lien on the West Acres. You think I don't know? That's when I slapped him. I didn't plan it. My hand moved before my mind caught up. But it was the sound that made everything stop, the sharp crack that echoed through the walls like thunder. He looked at me, stunned. Then something twisted in his face, something dark. "You'll regret that," he said, voice low and poisonous. "No one crosses me and walks away clean." I didn't blink. "Then you don't know me at all." That night, I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the moonlight cutting across the floor. My whole life had just collapsed, and yet, I didn't feel broken. I felt awake. Because if he wanted war, he'd just declared it in my house. On my land. I thought of my father. Of how he tilled that earth with his bare hands. Of how he used to say, "Zara, people can take money. They can steal time. But no one can uproot your roots if you know how deep they go." Well, I knew now. And I wasn't going to let that man walk away with what generations before me had bled to build. No. This wasn't over. It had just begun. Because I may have married a snake. But he married the wrong woman to try and trap. And by the time I was done, he'd wish he never set foot on my land. The days after that fight were poison. He didn't leave. Oh no, he stayed. Slept in the guest room, walked around like nothing had happened. Smiled in front of neighbors. Made tea for my mother when she visited. He knew what he was doing, keeping up the image, spinning the story before I could even find my breath. And people believed him. They always do, don't they? "Poor Armin," they said. "Zara's been cold lately. She doesn't appreciate him. He's done so much for that land." They didn't see the contracts. The lawyer. The threats. They didn't see the version of him that only came out behind closed doors, calculated, cruel, patient like a predator. "You'll lose," he told me one night, leaning against the doorframe like he owned the house. "You want to take this to court? I've already been talking to people. Your name might be on the papers, but let's not forget what your father owed. You wouldn't want your mother dragged into this, would you?" My blood ran cold. He knew about the second mortgage, the one I took after Baba's stroke. The one I never told anyone about. That's when I realized something chilling. He hadn't just married me for the land. He studied me. Researched me. Hunted me like a wolf. And I'd let him in with a smile. A week later, I found myself standing by the fields, looking over the land that had defined every chapter of my life. I remembered being 8, running barefoot through the wheat, laughing as Baba chased me. I remembered hiding under the banyan tree after Alma's funeral, curled up and quiet, feeling like the world had cracked open. And now I was fighting for it all. Because this wasn't just soil and grass. This land held my memories. My grief. My roots. And if he wanted it, he'd have to bury me first. That night, I started digging. Not into the ground. Into him. He thought I was quiet because I was scared. I wasn't. I was gathering. Every document. Every message. Every name on those contracts he'd forged while I slept beside him like a fool. I went through his drawers. His email drafts. His call logs. And what I found was worse than I imagined. He wasn't acting alone. There was a buyer. Some land developer who'd promised him a huge payout if he could transfer all 200 acres by the end of the quarter. That's why the pressure. That's why the fake smiles, the lawyer, the "you'll regret this" tone. He was on a deadline. Well, so was I. Because if he had one plan, I had two. And I wasn't just going to protect my land. I was going to expose him. The village held a seasonal meeting every month. At the temple courtyard. Everyone came. Landowners, farmers, traders, even the gossip aunties. And he was there, right at the front, giving his usual performance. Shaking hands. Wearing a crisp kurta like he was some noble husband managing his difficult wife's estate. That was the moment. I walked straight up to the podium. People looked confused. Murmurs started. I held up the signed documents. Not the fakes he forged, my copies. With highlighted sections. The signatures. The mismatches. Then I read the email chain. Word for word. The offer letter from the buyer. The clause that promised Armin a loyalty bonus if he convinced me to sign. The crowd fell silent. His face turned white. Like milk spilled over hot coals. He stepped toward me, voice shaking. Zara. Don't do this here. Let's talk. No, I said loud and clear. You talked enough behind my back. It's my turn now. And then I turned to the crowd. You all thought I was lucky to marry him. You all thought I was the dumb little farmer's girl who got a prince. But let me tell you something, he's not a prince. He's a vulture. And this, I held up the deed to the land, this will never be his to steal. The place erupted. He didn't come home that night. But his lawyer did. With a final threat. If you go public with this again, we'll countersue. Defamation. Property disputes. Fraud allegations. You'll lose the land just fighting in court. Sell now, Zara. Take the money. Walk away. I didn't speak. I just pointed to the door. Because I didn't need to win the way they did. I didn't need lawyers and courtrooms. I had truth. And a voice. So I recorded everything. Posted the emails. Uploaded the documents. Every social media group, every community board. I tagged the buyer's company. Within 24 hours, the developer backed out publicly. And Armin disappeared. But I wasn't done. Because he thought vanishing would protect him. He didn't realize. I still had one last card. Weeks later, the land was quiet again. But I wasn't. I'd met with a new lawyer, a woman who used to be cheated just like me. She helped me tighten the deeds, register the land under a new trust, one that protected it from future claims, marriages, or manipulation. And the last thing I did? I sold 1 acre. Not to a developer. To a widowed mother with 2 daughters and nowhere to live. I gave her the land, dirt cheap. On one condition. Build something honest here. That's all I ask. Because the best revenge is rebuilding something beautiful from the ashes of betrayal.